I'm just practicing. Yeah, I'm practicing. See, I'm moving the camera everywhere. I'm practicing with the zoom. So today we have our two Encanto authors here, and I'm practicing with my left hand, seeing if I can stay steady enough to record Jennifer when she does her author talk. So this is only preliminary, and we can delete all this, Brian, when you start deleting. Or not, it might be good stuff.
When you said it would have to be uploaded.
Well, it's on a memory stick.
It's on a memory stick. Yeah.
So he'll upload it and send it as a streaming video. Aww. And then
with Encanto Press, so if you haven't had an opportunity yet to make it over to our publishers, they are back in the back here. Peter's waving his hands. All right. So Jennifer Harrison.
Hi there. So thank you to Melissa and the Gatos Library for having me here to speak about my novel, Perverse Wonderland. The book takes place in Great Britain, so perverse is in the old-fashioned sense, stubbornly departing from what is reasonable or expected, persistent in error, which describes my summer in Oxford, England. I could ramble, I could continue to ramble, but instead I'm going to read an excerpt from my book. Chapter 10, A Broken Looking Glass. I survived the longest 3 weeks of my life, but only just, as the Irishman would have said. Most of the time, I still felt completely alone, a stupid girl who had moved to a land full of strangers, cast aside by an Englishman who promised he would care. But I was determined not to go home with my tail between my legs, and at the worst of my moments, and every moment in between best and worst, my Irish neighbor Thomas cared. Without judgment, without pity, and with a huge heart. He continued to stop by on his mission to bring me back to life, and he began to master the art of distracting me from my heartbroken state. I, on the other hand, had not mastered the art of looking less like the homeless person I technically was. My anger was receding, but I was numb, except for those times when I felt something more, which came out with Thomas and his very effective distraction accomplice, his 5-year-old daughter, Emma. One day, he ever so casually asked me to pick up Emma at school and watch her for a few hours. Never mind that I had never picked up any child from anywhere. Every instinct of mine wanted to tell Thomas no, but I needed to repay his extreme kindness. To say I was never good with children wasn't entirely accurate. I was just never interested and never made much of an effort to connect with children. But Emma, all complete sentences and posh British accent, was unlike any child I had ever been around. I adored her. That I had no experience with ensuring the well-being of a child did not concern Thomas. He trusted me, and so I agreed. And then I freaked out for the next few hours. At the appointed time, I walked a short distance to Emma's Oxfordshire school and sat on the playground waiting for her. When she ran out, she greeted me with a joyous hug. Jenny thought. I was not used to being hugged by a child, and it was bizarre, in a good way. As we walked, her little hand clutched mine the entire time. We stopped by Party Mania, where I gave her £5 and we picked out chunks of clay, sketching paper, bubbles, and 2 feather boas. That's bad. She thanked me each time we placed an item in our bag. Emma paid for her items, and just outside the party store, she exclaimed, "I had to spend my money." Her hands were out, and there was only 60 pence left. Of course she did, Emma. That's what the money was for. She was very excited. Emma noticed tiaras in the window of a bridal shop across the street, and she very seriously let me know. I'd been waiting my whole life for a crown, so I took her in and bought one for her. Her whole life. This day was when Emma began all of the princess talk in earnest. She was obsessed with princesses, as was common for a young girl, if Disney's success is any indication. And although I too once toyed with the idea in a very abstract way, I really didn't have a clue. But she insisted I write her a fairy tale. And I'm thinking, me? Really? When I've been freshly dumped by an Englishman after moving across the world for him? Emma was, after all, unlike her father, British, with her very own queen and castles everywhere on the United Kingdom in which she lived. She definitely knew more about princesses than I did, so was there anything I could write about her ancient kingdom-infested land that would be of interest? I was not a girl who grew up dreaming of meeting a prince. I never dressed like a princess, and this American woman had no frame of reference for royalty or monarchies. No one had ever described me as effervescent or bubbly, but even so, I didn't think I should jade Emma with, I made out at a castle once with a very mean boy who's clearly not my prince. Emma and I returned to my rented flat full of eccentrics and settled in the garden hammock. I had been reading The Princess Bride to her, and when we got to the part about Wesley outsmarting Vizzini in the Battle of Wits, I asked Emma how she liked the story. She turned her little face to me and said, "Brilliant, utterly brilliant." And that was how she was, happy and unharmed, when Thomas came to pick her up. He gave me a strong, thankful hug, and just as they were leaving, Emma took one of my hands, and in it she placed her last 60 pence. "Just in case you need it, Jenny Fa." Yeah, that kid deserved to start her own fairy tale. And now she does. Lady Emma. This is a children's fairy tale that is part of the adult fairy tale. So I wrote this, and Emma had asked me to write her a fairy tale repeatedly, so I did. Wrote it, drew it, it was very amateur. And I handed it to my mother, sitting out here, who's a professor of children's literature at Notre Dame de Namur, and she turned it into this. So they're both available. If you want free postcards or stickers, come to our table. Thank you.